And welcome back to Faction Turn 32. I should actually switch over to the spreadsheet scene, shouldn't I, rather than hanging on the intro scene. Welcome on back to Beacon Space in our Faction Turn 32. Yeah, I apologize for the stream blip there. I think my OBS instance decided to lag for quite a bit and bounced in and out, but it's alright. We are back, and we will just have a Faction Turn stream as always. We are looking as a wonderful place to start, which is the map visualization of the Faction Turns assets locations centered on into the planet of Tellus. Of course, there are several assets here owned by the Tellus Council. We'll see if they continue to add on to the number they control, and what else may happen across the wider sector of Beacon Space. Yes, if you are looking at the map and wish to have it open during the Faction Turn, that is a very useful reminder. I would not recommend refreshing it during the stream, as invalid configurations on the spreadsheet are occasionally possible while we are processing turn orders, and those will cause the map to, well, not always render correctly given the potential for conflicts between different resource counts. With that said, though, here is the spreadsheet. Our wonderful thing of source of truth for all things that happen in the world of Beacon Space on a faction level. As we get started today, I don't think I have any pre-turn announcements. I think we just get to launch straight into the faction turns, but we do get to see if past me remembered to actually set up new roles, and it looks like I did, but I didn't fill in when factions go, so we'll have the fun experience of doing it on the fly, which is not a problem at all. So we get started today with the Concord of Mutual Disdain coming in first this faction turn. They're going to kick things off with something that will become a bit of a theme this faction turn, but we'll see more as we can continue through additional factions. They're going to be expanding influence and, of course, taking their respective goal, so they'll be able to earn some XP at the end of the turn. We'll go give them their income, which has nicely increased to a balance of 8 faction credits, 3 of which is owed to their planets, which is quite nice for them, as they'll get to gain that money, taking them up to 29 faction credits at the start of this turn. They're then going to bounce around some strike fleets, so they have some strike fleets over in the 1517 hex, which is way down here on planet BI, and that's going to be moving on over to planet CG in the 1418 system. And then there is a second strike fleet of theirs in the 1208, bouncing around on Gome, continuing to add to the color confusion between the Concord of Mutual Disdain and the Aguamala Syndicate. Those teals are slightly different, I assure you. That strike fleet will be moving itself on up to the world of Calypso in the 1206 hex. After that, we'll get to actually run their expand influence, but let's go move these assets around for them first on the actual spreadsheet. The other thing we can do is clear the purchase sickness of their grav tank formation. They no longer have to worry about that status. So 1208 on Gome moves to Calypso, and the 1517 location of a strike fleet gets to relocate over to planet CG. They're then going to expand influence on planet CG, of which they are the only ones there, so the action is unopposed, and they're able to create a base of influence without any particular problems. They'll get to make a 1 HP base of influence, as is quite standard, and that will add itself on to planet CG. We should get that asset row filled. Fantastic. And we should fix this one as well. Actually, I'm going to see if this is still big enough for the stream chat. This will make running the stream easier if this size text works. So somebody, if you can't read this at all, please let me know, but otherwise I'm going to run with this size. Right. Up next for their turn, they're going to take one of the actions to help the Valkai people, aiming to evacuate the population. Given this is the ongoing event, it seems pertinent that we come double check the rules for such a thing and go through them in detail just to make sure we're all on the same page as to what is going on. So the Help at Valkai action is a free action that has 3 sub-action types, but given the rules, that means you can only do one of these actions each turn. They're going to be choosing to evacuate the population, which means they need to have a starship asset on planet, which I believe they do. And then we'll be rolling a d10 plus their wealth stat against a DC 9. So we'll get to go see here on the world of Valkai. We can see there is in fact a strike fleet from the Concord of Mutual Disdain, and that the Concord's wealth stat is a 4. So we're going to go roll a d10 plus 4 against a DC 9, which only results in an 8, so that is unfortunately a failure for this action. Let's make a note. They're then going to take a free action of the map modifications to attempt to increase the population on the planet of Kuzimu. I'm going to go with that, Kuzimu, from a failed colony to an outpost, which again will return to our lengthy rules document to verify the actual modification difficulty of that action. They have a large bonus from their constellation that we will need to keep in mind as well. So a DC of 11 to modify the planet's population. We can come see that the constellation owned by the Concord of Mutual Disdain has a +9, making this a nearly certain activity, but we'll still roll because they could fail, of a D10 +9, resulting in a 13, closer than they would have liked, and 2 4s back-to-back on the D10. Quite an interesting achievement, but that is a success for modifying the population of the planet of Kuzimu, which now has a outpost-sized colony on it, operating at TL2. They did successfully expand influence this turn, so that will increase the Concord of Mutual Disdain's XP up to 5 as we wrap up their turn and get to move on to the second faction. Up next this turn is the Agomala Syndicate. It is somewhere on this sheet. There it is. There they are. Let's expand that out a little bit. So, they are going to be continuing the trend we have established of a goal and action by expanding influence on today's turn. I'm going to add some columns just so that I can better center the active one on screen. There we go. We're doing it live. So. There we go. So we'll continue our expand influence for them. Let's go give them their money, bringing their income up to, or their balance, up to 18 from their 5 faction credit income. They're then going to continue to move some strike fleets around, as is quite normal. So we're going to move a strike fleet from the 0511 hex. The Armada of the Wild Expanse is going to retreat to 0712. And the as is the Viridescent Fang, so those will both make a 2 hex jump away towards deeper into the vacuum of space. Then we have a strike fleet on the 1406 system on planet P that is going to make the trip over to planet S in the 1505 system. And that will wrap up all of the movements we have to do for the Agomala Syndicate. So let's go transfer those on the spreadsheet and I realized I just didn't charge Concord at all for their turn, so let's go fix that mistake before I move on. And subtract the 3 faction credits they spent, taking their balance down to 26. I'm sure somebody in Twitch chat was already yelling at me. Nope, I caught my own mistake before somebody in Twitch chat did. That's great. Okay. So, that should be quite reasonable. Alright, now that I interrupted myself in Agumala's turn, though, let's go move those 3 assets around. That's going to cost them... Oh, I missed one. They have a covert shipping that is also activating to move, so that'll be 4 cost in total for their movements, but we'll go ahead and charge them for that now, taking them down to 14 as we go and process them. So these 2 strike fleets are moving to the 0712 hex. Here's the point where you definitely won't want to refresh the spreadsheet, as refreshing now will cause it to break until I add in that map location as a valid display point. So don't refresh your maps, everyone. That's 2 of the actions for strike fleets moved then. The 3rd strike fleet moving from planet P gets to relocate itself on to planet S. And finally, a covert shipping on Nueva Cuauhtémoc is moving the Informer's asset co-located on the planet to planet B, which is much harder to find when there are planets that have 2 letters starting with B in that search field. Moving on from that last asset movement, the Informers now located on planet B are going to, in fact, expand influence here in the hex of 1407. We can see that that hex is empty, or the planet is empty, so they will get to do so without any opposition. So we'll give the Agumala Syndicate their base of influence. This will come in at no surprise of 1 HP on planet B, costing them 1 faction credit in the process. So let's go charge them for that, taking the Agumala Syndicate down to 13 as their faction credit balance. Then they are going to take the same free action to help Valkai as was done previously. They are going to evacuate with the strike fleets the Rites of Spring. Given their will score of 3, the Agumala Syndicate gets to add 3 to the D10 roll. They are just trying to beat a DC of 9 and a 12. We'll do that as a success for them on this roll. Let's make the evac clock 2 out of 5 and go mark down that success. Success. Fantastic. Following up on their successful evacuation of Valkai's population, which I need to go mark on the asset with a note so that we remember it. How did I mark it for the Children of the Vein? Completed Valkai evac, that's what I wrote. This is for the Rites of Spring. Let's add that note. That status can be cleared by moving to a world or hex that does not have Valkai on it. That's the condition there. So, the other thing we're going to do is update the constellation of the Zoanthai chain by, or excuse me, not the Zoanthai chain, the Hunter's Veil for Agumala Syndicate to expand the number of hexes they have claimed in it. So, rather than try to figure out which numbers are different, I'm just going to go through these from their list. So 1207, 1208, 1209, 1307, 1406, 1407. We're going to add 1505, and that's going to shift all of these down from there. So they are claiming an additional planet. I have checked beforehand for meeting the conditions to actually validate this. It is kind of arduous to do on stream given the map not being perfectly up to sync, so I did it by hand. But that should this should hopefully, if I can type numbers in correctly, be the... Oh, that cell's got white text. This should be the valid new constellation for them. We should be able to see that they now have an increased bonus, nearly rivaling that of the Concord of Mutual Disdain, coming in at a nice +8. That means they are then going to take a free action after the update to their constellation. They're going to use that new constellation bonus to actually try to improve the tech level of Planet S. So I have that their bonus should be 8. Your notes say 7. So I am not sure who is right between the two of us, but I am going to trust my spreadsheet for this roll and take the bonus of +8 and go from there. So the DC to do this is 11s. This is going to be a D10 +8, resulting in, well, it doesn't matter what the bonus is, an 18 or a 17 would easily throw the 11 out of the water. So this will improve the tech level of Planet S by 1, taking it up to... let's go find out. It'll increase up to a maximum of TL4, so it gets to go up to TL3 from TL2. Very exciting. Finally, they are going to take the Unveil the Ruin action as part of the revelation that there is one ruin that seems to be hidden in the sector somewhere. They are doing so from the strike fleet currently located on Planet S, and they're going to be rolling a D10 +5 as the bonus, which is their force stat, plus an additional 5 faction credits that they are going to spend on this roll. And they need to beat DC 14. That is, tough dice luck, going from a 10 to a 1. An 11 will not succeed, unfortunately, so they will take a D8 worth of damage for a 4 damage to the strike fleet currently located on Planet S. That is some unfortunate dice luck. So, Planet S, strike fleet, here it is. That goes down to 4 out of 8 on its available HP, and we need to go charge the Ogumala Syndicate 5 faction credits for that attempt. Quite unfortunate for them. They do, however, get to wrap things up on a nice note, gaining 1 XP from completing their expansion of influence. And we'll move on to the next faction of the Assembled Commonwealth, who gets to come in third this turn order, and we'll be continuing the trend of expanding influence and, well, taking the respective goal. We'll go give them their income of 5 faction credits, bringing them balance up to 21, and of course, like most factions have, they'll need to be moving some assets first. We'll do these on the asset tracker rather than looking at them on the map just for the moment, given that they are going to be moving their anchorage station off of Quetzalcoatl. This asset can move several other with it, so let's see what all gets to move. So the anchorage station right here, as well as a grav tank that is with it, and the surveyors, all 3 assets located there, are going to be relocating themselves on to Valkai via the anchorage station's movement abilities. This will cost them a total of 3 faction credits for the movement. They're then going to take the free action Help Valkai by trying to evacuate the population, using in fact the now present starship asset of the anchorage station. They get a +6 to their bonus, so we'll get to go roll a D10 +6 and see if they can add another +1 on to this tracker. A 12 will beat a DC 9, so that is a success for them, giving them another asset that has the completed Valkai evac status. Anchorage station right there. And we'll get to go mark this tracker up to 3 out of 5. Ooh, very close to the success markers. They're then going to activate a covert shipping assets currently located on Iderest to move a commodities broker that is located on the world of New Cinnabar to relocate that over to Coritas. So I'll go ahead and make this movement, and then we will go look at it on the map. So that is moving from the 0911 hex, which is right here of Iderast. This covert shipping asset is activating, grabbing a commodities broker way down here on New Cinnabar and relocating it to 1213 of Coritas. They're then going to expand influence on the world of Coritas, forming a 1 HP base of influence, which, given there's nobody else there to oppose, they can do without any issues, granting them this perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and do that. And this goes on Coritas and gets its ability description. That will, of course, earn the Assembled Commonwealth NXP, bringing their total up to 9, as well as needing to charge them for everything they've done this turn. So 3 faction credits for the Anchorage Station movement, 1 faction credit for the covert shipping, and 1 faction credit for the base of influence creation will be a total of 5 faction credits spent for the Commonwealth, bringing them back down to where they started at 16 faction credits. Then we get to continue on to our next faction. Sorry, I was just catching up on the chat regarding the constellation from Aguamala Syndicate. Oh, is Sihi in the current selection? Is that what's causing the constellation to register as an 8 and not a 7? Oh. That's a fun edge case. What hex is Sihi in? 1107? Yeah, unfortunately, I think I'm going to fix this, and you can't claim that hex at this exact moment. Sorry. Thank you for pointing it out. You don't have an asset there, so you wouldn't be able to... Because Sihi is present, it would count as a filled hex, so you wouldn't be able to... Oh, was it already claimed? Oh, this is the weird recreation rules, though, require... There is no modifying, there is only recreating. So you have to reestablish all the conditions at the start. So I think since the reclaim triggered this turn, 1107 should be dropped from the constellation at this moment, just to as a weird edge case of planets being able to move. If it hadn't have been recreated, then I wouldn't care. But because of that, I would like to attempt to be consistent, given it was a kind of confusing original set of stuff. So there we go. Now it should be a 7, but it makes no difference. But oh, have you? Well, maybe I've been inconsistent and I'm trying to be consistent. The idea was you had to have at least an asset on all worlds, even as you were expanding it. Unfortunately, the system hexes tell me very little very quickly. Well, if I've messed it up in the past, it's too far to go back and correct it, but I'm going to attempt to be consistent going future. That there is not technically a modification rule, so it requires recreating to change the hexes, so you need to be able to fulfill the conditions at the time of changing it. Anybody who's made one since then is fine, but that is That is supposed to be the intent. I may have messed this up. That is perfectly fine. But thank you for catching Sihi in there. That was not something I had originally caught. Cool. I believe I left the Assembled Commonwealth's turn completed as I was catching up on chat, so we get to move on to our next faction. And that will be the Tellus Council, coming in 4th this faction turn. They are going to, of course, not set a goal, as they don't get one, but they will gather their income of 1 faction credit. Then they will buy an asset on Tellus of a venture capital asset. So we will go charge them, well, we will grant them 1 faction credit and then immediately charge them 15, so they are down to 1. And we shall go give the Tellus Council its new asset. A venture capital, which hopefully will not blow itself up the first time it is used, given that is a possibility, but there should be quite a few stacking modifiers that should help limit that being from something that actually happens, but it could if the Tellus Council is incredibly unlucky. That wraps up the Tellus Council's turn, and so we will move along to the 5th faction of our turn, the Larkspur Combine. They are going to break the goal trend and instead stick with their own, taking the inside enemy territory goal, as we will give them some 6 faction credits as well, taking their balance up to 23. They're then going to use asset ability to do a variety of things. They're going to get started by helping to excavate the ruin on Grail by making a d10 plus 3 roll, as they are spending 10 faction credits for this. That will bring us up to a roll of, oh, rough, a 4. That's the second one this faction turn. I am pretty sure that will result in no progress on the ruin excavation. Oh, no, it still does! 3 faction credits was enough. I am entirely mistaken there. That will ensure a +1. So, good choice there. That will take their balance down to 20, and they will still get to help out on Grail World, which is right here, which now has a ruin status of 3 of 8. And the Larkspur Combine will get a post detailing something they have discovered about the ruin as a result. As a reminder, those aren't secrets. You can feel free to share them, but you will get it from me hopefully sometime around when faction turn information comes out for the next turn. They, of course, like most factions, have some movements to do, but first let's clear their purchase sickness as a status, and then move some of these assets around. So first off, there is a strike fleet on Yakia that is relocating itself to Kartakuk. Then there is 2 strike fleets on Mankaraniti that are moving over to Idarest, as we will move both of those around. That would complete 3 out of 4 for inside enemy territory. There's then this strike fleet from El Arpon that moves up to Valkai, and that actually completes inside enemy territory, even though that wasn't the detail listing I was sent in the turn order. So as a note for the future, Valkai does count as an independent faction for inside enemy territory. They're then going to help Valkai by attempting to evacuate population, as we have seen quite a few times before. But let's go ahead and see what their wealth bonus is. They have a +3, so that's going to be another d10 plus 3 roll, resulting in, ooh, well, we had a 10 and a 1, and now we had a 1 and a 10, so a 13 does beat DC 9, so that is a success for this asset, bringing the evac clock up to 4 out of 5. This asset needs to be marked with a note that it has completed a Valkai evac, but congratulations to it. With on the heels of that success, the extended theater asset they have, located currently on Moss, is going to activate to move a co-located post-tech industry asset. I don't believe I was given a disambiguation between the two, so I'm just going to pick the top one to move it to Tellus. This normally costs 1 faction credit, which it will continue to do so, but the Pirate Base of Influence also triggers, granting the Tahora Fai a credit from them as well. So let's bring the Tahora Fai up to 15, and then let's charge them for all of the movements and the Ruin Excavation they've done so far. So 3 faction credits spent on the Ruin Excavation that I charged at the start of the turn have been accounted for. Then the movements, we have 4 strike fleets that moved before Valkai was helped, then Valkai was helped, and the extended theater asset activated for a total cost of 6 faction credits in movement, taking them down to 14 on their balance. But of course, let's see what they can do as they activate a few of their remaining assets to make some additional money. First up, the post-tech industries on Tellus is going to make its role independently so that we can be sure to trigger any potential abilities for the ruins. So let's go take a look at this just for complete clarity on the subject, and go take a look at the Tellus Council. The ruin can members of the council, can use this activation here to re-roll a faction credit generating die for an asset on Tellus, so long as the asset has used an ability to generate faction credits. So we will get to see what happens with this post-tech industry, which I believe needs to roll a d6. You would think after doing this several turns in a row I would have it memorized, but I don't quite yet. Yes, it is a d6. So we will roll a d6, resulting in a 2, which doesn't make them 2 faction credits, so we'll re-roll that d6 into a 6. So that will make them 2 faction credits there. There are then two post-tech industries located on Moss that need to make a roll. Those both get a 3 each, so I believe that is just 1 faction credit, but we'll check the chart in just a second. And yep. Okay, so that is 1 faction credit there, so 4 faction credits earned in total. There's then 2 party machines on Moss that likewise need to activate. These are rolling a d6 on a... is it 3 or greater or 4 or greater? I don't remember. On a 4 or greater, they earn a 1 faction credit. It is an exact 50-50. That is a faction credit from both, though, meaning that the Larkspur Combine have earned 6 faction credits on their turn, bringing their balance back up to 20. Now, I believe we need to check a tag for the Tellus Council by taking a look at the Speculative Investors tag. When the Ruin ability to re-roll a faction credit generation asset die is used on Tellus by any faction, the Council earns 1 faction credit. That ability was used, 1 faction credit granted to the Tellus Council, bringing them up to 2. Finally, to complete the Larkspur Combine's turn, they are going to have the Extended Theater asset on Moss support the Loyalists in their civil war. So, that is something I need to make a note of. Extended Theater, Loyalists. They're going to take a d2 of damage for this action, resulting in, unlucky 2 damage to the Extended Theater asset, bringing its HP down to 8. But it does not lose stealth. Having completed inside enemy territory, the Larkspur Combine goes up to 19 experience points to spend, and we will pause their turn there. Does the Valkai free action clear stealth? Good question. of course, stealth is not on this list. Why would I put it in the obvious place for me to be able to look it up? We'll go look it up in the rules. I believe it should be in the status section. Yep, an asset that has stealth cannot be detected or attacked by other factions. An asset loses its stealth if it is used to attack, defend, or gets traded to another faction. Nope. It does not lose stealth for helping out on the Valkai free action. If I had wanted it to, I would have needed to special case that into the rules, and I didn't, so it is worth double checking for sure, but thank you for pointing this out for the future. I will be making a note for other event or quest rules, should I want that to be considered. That said, though, we get to move along to our next faction, but just give me 1 second. I saw a message that I need to respond to, so... There we go. Message sent. I can return to the faction turn. Great. That brings us to the 6th faction in our lineup today, the Starlit Court. So, they are going to be taking the buy asset action. Giving themselves another strike fleet on Sihi. So, let us give them their 6 faction credits, bringing their balance up to 64 as a total. They're then going to immediately spend 12 of that on a strike fleet and another 3 on continuing to help excavate the Grail Ruin. So that will be 15 subtracted, bringing their balance down to 14.9 faction credits. Let us go grant them the strike fleet they have acquired first. As this was purchased on their homeworld, of course, nobody can stop them from doing so, so it goes through without a hitch, and we'll even make sure that we don't give them a 1 HP strike fleet due to the sheet configuration. So that is quite good for that setup. And this needs to have purchase sickness. Fantastic. And then let's go make the D10 plus 3 roll against the Ruin for a 5. That I believe is only going to be likewise a plus 1 to the Ruin clock. But hey, progress from both factions here is faster than progress from one faction alone. So they will both be receiving a status update from me as to what they potentially discover. Asset bought, roll made for Grail World. That is the Starlit Court's turn, which means we get to move along to our 7th faction in this setup, which is the faction of Ascent. They are going to be taking the exploration action, which is quite nice for them, but we will give them their income of 5 faction credits as well. So let's grant them that money, and then of course chain the semi-usual exploration steps from them. Starting off, they are going to explore the hex of 0200 by attempting to do so with the Smuggler's asset. This will require a D10 plus 7 roll versus a DC 12, given the distance of 2 from another revealed hex. So we will roll D10 plus 7. An 11 will fail, so instead we will get to pass this along to the next asset to explore, which is the Seditionist on World, who will also take the same roll of a D10 plus 7. They get a 15, that's a success for them, so we'll get to see how many planets they reveal here. A 6 is 3 planets. Ooh, quite exciting for the Hex. Let's see what they discover on their first planet. So, as always, I'm going to pull this to the side so that I can actually transfer these over into the spreadsheet in a semi-reasonable way. So the hex 0200 gets a few more expansions, as it has 3 planets now populating System 8. I don't actually know which planet is next. That was a mistake. Did I make a note in here by chance? Probably not. Nope. So I'd be looking for... Do we have a planet CU? Nope. CT we do have. So planet CU is up next then. If I've messed that up, we can always fix it. So, planet CU... Oops. Planet CU... B... Planet CW. Should get dragged down. And planet CU then, the first planet in this hex, has the mechanics tag of tactic assets built on this world, cost 1 faction credit less. It has a population of an uncolonized world, finding itself at TL level 4, with a missable biosphere. Or excuse me, atmosphere is up first, with a corrosive atmosphere, a variable cold temperature, and a missable biosphere, including the faction tags of colonized population. Quite strange given the fact that it's uncolonized, but maybe it's only attempted to be colonized in the past. And a taboo treasure. Well, if it was colonized in the past to be a failed colony, sometimes planet worlds are always an interesting thing to consider. So let's go ahead and drag these down so that those planets populate correctly. For the other 2, I'll need to roll up. I'll roll these up and then move them on over to people can take a look at the rolls results after we've transferred them into the spreadsheet. For planet CV, the ruin was a 7, so that's not a ruin. And for this next planet, we'll find out in just a second. This one is once per turn. The planetary governor can reroll a faction generation die. Quite nice. We got to see that in use. There are tens of millions of people living here at TL2 in a corrosive and invasive atmosphere that finds itself to be variable warm. There is, of course, no native biosphere, as one would expect, including the tags of alien ruins and cultural power. A ruin roll of 12 will not generate a ruin, so there's not one on this planet. The final planet in this system, the planet of CW, has the mech tag that wealth assets cost 1 less on this world. There are tens of millions of people living here at TL4+ as their tech level. They get to have a wonderful corrosive atmosphere. This hex is just great to live in, and of course, it's burning here with a microbial biosphere. It has the tags of hive mind and cheap life. A ruin roll of 7 for this planet will not result in a ruin here either, so 3 new planets discovered, but no new ruins. For those interested, here are those new planet results in the flesh in Roll20. I'll leave them there is just a second. Oh, is there? Oh, we were on to DA. Oh, this is why I can find it. Well, I can fix all of those. Planets DA, DB, and DC. Woohoo! Look at that! Planet DC provides no affiliation with the comic chain by the same name. Thank you, Memo, for the correction there. Let us go relocate Ascent's assets that are on this point of interest to planet DA. So at least that portion of the map will fix itself. But again, don't refresh, the space hex still isn't fixed. So that will wrap up the exploration part of their turn. Of course, we'll skip the other exploration as they have completed it. They're then going to establish an outpost using the quest action of their own by trying to do so on the world of Icaros. This will be a D10, spending 4 faction credits and taking a D6 of damage to the base of influence to try to succeed at this, versus a DC 8. So in fact, I believe that configuration is guaranteed to succeed, as a plus 7 in total, plus at least a 1 on the die will give us an 8. Oops. So that is a 13, so that is a success for the outpost establishment on Icaros. Let's go make a note for them on, I suppose the planet map is the correct place to do this. Icaros. Now it has both a Children of the Vein missionary clinic and Ascent infiltration outpost. Fantastic. They're then going to rename a planet, and they're going to rename the planet of Bapuk, which I can't search for because it uses Greek letters. So I don't need that anymore, thank you. Here it is. And they are going to rename this to Mortiferum Mori, which likely has caused me some other things I may need to update on the spreadsheet. Let's, yeah. Fantastic, that should fix that. And then to wrap up their turn, they are going to help the population of Valkai by assisting in evacuations, rolling a d10 plus their wealth score of a 3 versus DC 9. A 6 unfortunately fails, so they do not get the bragging rights of giving the final contribution to that tracker. They will gain 2 experience points though, bringing them up to a total of 3. Congratulations to them. Spinning right along to our next faction, we have the Emelhart Institute coming in at 8th this faction turn. They already have the Blood the Enemy goal, so of course they will be keeping it, but we'll get to see what else they do on their turn. So, oops, Emelhart Institute being 8th, they are going to, of course, take the attack action. They are going to be attacking Ascent on the world of Icaros with a commodities broker, Children of the Vein on Longza with a saboteurs, and Ascent with a distorted lens on the world of Langan. We'll resolve these attacks one at a time, given the defensive orders and requests I got in. And so, let's go through these. So first off, the first attack against Ascent on Icaros will be instead defended by the Children of the Vein on this world using their own post-tech industry. So let's go through these attack setups. The commodities broker by the Emelhart Institute gets to roll an attack with wealth versus wealth of a 2d8. The one on Icaros is right here. The wealth score of the Emelhart Institute is a 6. The wealth score of Children of the Vein is a 6. So we will roll... let's roll the attacker first. So this will be Emelhart's roll of a d10 plus 6, resulting in, yikes, a 7. That's about the worst it could be, given that Ascent gets to reroll ones and wins on ties, meaning that the counterattack damage is essentially guaranteed here, as this plus 6 defense roll is the exact same as the one just made. A 13 will easily win the defense here. And does a post-tech industry asset, though, have a counter? It in fact Post-tech industry, in fact, does have a counter of 1d4. Let's see what will happen. I thought it did, that's why I was confused for a moment there. A d4 of damage back results in, a lucky 4 damage, resulting in the death of the attacking Amelhart Institute commodities broker. The second attack being made by the Amelhart Institute is against the Children of the Vein with Saboteurs on Longza. On this world, the Children of the Vein will be blocking with a pre-tech industry of their own. So Amelhart Institute's Saboteurs are making a Cunning versus Cunning attack. So the Cunning of Amelhart Institute is a 6. The Cunning of the Children of the Vein is a 4. Let's see how this turns out. Continuing our trend of rolling for the attacker first, that is a d10 plus 6 for a 14. A d10 re-rolling ones on the defense here. Only adding a 4 though. They'll have to roll a 10. Unfortunately, a 9 will not do it for them. So they will lose this attack, resulting in damage from the Saboteurs, which is a 2d4 worth of damage. So let's go ahead and roll that for a total of 7 damage to the pre-tech infantry asset, which was defending. This was on the world of Longza, so this will go down right here to 8 HP. And then the last attack in the list returns us to a target of Ascent on the world of Langan, of which there were lots of people here, and Ascent will be the ones defending. So the Distorted Lens will make its attack, from the Amelhart Institute. Attacking with a Distorted Lens asset always has advantage, regardless of where it is attacking, or how, or why, so this attack rolls with advantage. With a Force v Force roll. The Force roll of the Amelhart Institute is only a 4, but Ascent's is only a 2, so this attack will be quite interesting to see. So we'll be rolling 2d10, keeping the higher one, and adding a 4 for the attacker, which results in a 13. Oh no, that is not beatable by the defense's d10 plus 2 roll, but will roll for a 7 either way. A d6 of attack damage dealt deals 2 damage to the defending Ascent Distorted Lens. Distorted Lens goes down to 4 HP. That wraps up the damage for that, so that they have dealt. So we will, of course, make notes for later on at the end of the turn for the quest, the amount of damage taken and dealt. They are currently at 1, 7, and then this one was 2, so that is 10 damage as of this moment. Finally, they're going to choose to remove 2 remaining things. The first movement action in their turn is now invalid, as the commodities broker on Icaros no longer lives, and therefore cannot be moved off this planet, so that movement action does not trigger, but they do get to attempt their AI research, where they'll roll a they'll get to make some rolls for that. Let's take a look at their quest line to ensure we're doing all of that correctly. So the Amelhart activations, their AI research, they get to roll a d10 of plus force, their force stat, which we've just recovered was a 4, an amount of damage taken by an asset as seen below, so they're choosing to take a d6, so that will give a plus 3, so this, and then they are going to spend 2 faction credits on this to get a total roll of a plus 3, a plus 2, and their force of a plus 4. Roll a d10 plus 4 plus 3 plus 2 trying to beat, oh my goodness, they've gotten a 10. That definitely beats the DC. A 19 will more than succeed against DC 12. So a success there gets to add 1 to their activation clock. Let us go put Warmind at 6 out of 12. We will, of course, charge them for that action, taking their balance down from 18 to 15. But then that will wrap up their goal, their turn. We do need to check their goal. Blood the enemy requires them to deal damage. They dealt 7, so that would have taken them up to 18. So Blood the enemy will complete, gaining them 2 XP. Taking them up to 8. Congratulations. That gets to move us over to our 9th faction turn then, which is the Tahora Fayi. They are going to take the Explore a System goal and explicitly try to revise the charts of something to earn a goal. Oh, I forgot to correct this one, so the emote stuff wasn't in it, but that's alright. I can fix that in the near future, or right now. So they'll be doing a few different things, but let's go ahead and get started by giving them their money of 14 faction credits, taking their balance from the sum of 15 up to 19. They will then move a few strike fleets around, costing them 3 faction credits. So let's go ahead and take them down to 16, and then go do all of these movements. So 16. Did I do that math right? No, they should have gone up to 29 and then down to 26. Somebody was probably about to call me out for my inability to do math there. So let's find the Tahora-wise assets down here, and go ahead and move these strike fleets around. So these strike fleets, the Unquiet and the Unafraid from the 0511 hex, moves back to Sarnin. The Black Gorab and the Rakapapa Ramana are going to be moving to Planet AG. Those are those 3 activations. Then the Surveyor's assets are going to activate using their ability on a Use Asset turn to relocate themselves around. I can find that asset. There it is, up at the top. From the Imyrna system to move to Tellus. Taking advantage of the activation of that Tellus can always be a valid movement destination. They're then going to activate the covert shipping on the Rays of Light on Dyne to relocate the Surveyors from Tellus to Planet BQ. This movement is of course fine, because an asset can both move itself and be moved by another asset on the same turn. That's going to cost them 1 additional faction credit that will bill them in just a moment. We're then going to use a post-tech industry from them, rolling a d6 for a 2, making them 1 faction credit, so I no longer need to charge them a credit, I just won't give them one either, for activating the post-tech industry on Dyne. Then they're going to attempt their final step of the Whale Sanctuary on Sarinin, spending 5 faction credits on this roll. So rolling a d10 plus 3 plus 5 versus DC 10 is a 13 for a success. That will complete the Sanctuary progress on the world of Sarinin. I assume I was keeping progress of that somewhere. Maybe it was out here. Or maybe I wasn't. I don't know. Either way, I know it is the final step for establishing the sanctuary, so congratulations to them on doing so successfully. Let us add to the world of Sarinin the White Whale Sanctuary, which means some things will happen at the end of the turn, but we will get there. They have instructions on here to interact with the white whale, but those will no longer be needed given... actually, no, that's not quite true, is it? The whale could still be attacked, so I will go ahead and roll those out as well. The whale is going to be directed to attempt to heal itself by rolling an opposed roll. So we'll roll off for the Tehorfai first with an 11. The whale defends with a 12, because of course the whale refuses to listen to instructions even in its newly established sanctuary. So we will see what the whale does on its own turn. Finally, the Tehorfai are going to revise charts by attempting to establish a research base on the world of Emirja. This is a difficulty 8 roll. I roll a d10 plus the 7 from the constellation bonus for a 13, giving them a success. So we get to go add this sector object for them. Emirja, this is a research base. Do we have any of these? I don't know, so we'll call it Research Base 1. Mark it as a research base. Congratulations to them, that completes their goal, granting them 1 XP, taking them up to 6. Oh, there it is. I was tracking the sanctuary right there. That has now been completed. And of course, their Seas of Planet AG progresses, as should the Starlit Courts have progressed. For player-controlled factions, we have last but not least the Children of the Vein. They are going to be taking the Blood the Enemy goal, and as well taking the Seas Planet action. So Blood the Enemy for them will require doing damage equivalent to the sum of their stat line. So a 0 out of a 6 plus a 4 plus a 6 will be 16 damage that they will need to deal. The first thing they are going to do, though, is move some assets around, so let's do that, and then we will make any of their valid attacks. So the Smuggler's asset on Valkai is going to move itself for the cost of 1 faction credit to the hex 1204, another space hex that will break the map. Oh, I put that on entirely the wrong asset last time. It should be this one, but it is now cleared. Or I've moved the wrong one. Oh, I've moved the wrong one. Okay. It is the smugglers that are moving. The seditionist assets on Valkai are going to attempt to do something, though. They are going to attempt to hinder government. So this is a d10 plus 4, trying to beat a different difficulty depending on exactly the outcome. So trying to hinder the government requires a different result. So let's go ahead and make this roll, and then we'll see what happens. So a d10, rerolling ones once, and then adding the plus 4 to this from their cunning modifier gives them an 8. If we check on this clock for the hindering actions, we get to see that a 7 to 8 or 9 to 7 does nothing to the clock, so no change occurs, but that clock will not drop on its own when it is checked. So that results in that. We have a few more things to move around, so let's do those first. Extended Theater assets on Moss and Malacca are both going to activate. The one on Moss is going to move a covert shipping asset from Moss to Tellus, costing 1 faction credit, so that is a covert shipping asset. Oops, not what I wanted to do. Where is their covert shipping? Here it is. It's on Moss. It moves to Tellus. This would normally trigger the Tehorfai's pirate tag, but they own a bank, so that does not trigger on this movement. The Extended Theater on Malaga will move a grav tank formation from Tellus to the world of Longza. Grav tank somewhere in this mess. There it is. Moves over to Longza. They are then going to take delay the activation part of the Emelhart's quest by trying to hinder the activation. They need to roll a d10 plus S, which is the stat from an asset, versus the DC of 7 plus the distance to Ingrid. So the world of Longza in 0711 is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hexes away, resulting in a difficulty of 12. So this is a d10 plus their force stat, which is a 6. Trying to beat DC 12. They do get to reroll ones here as well. So we'll see what happens. A 13 beats the DC, so that does delay the activation, reducing the Warmind counter to 5. They then have a few attacks to process by seizing the planet of Longza. It looks like I didn't quite copy in their attacks correctly to my copy-paste, so I'll have to fix that in just a second. But they are going to be seizing the world of Longza. This seize is being opposed by the Amelhart Institute, so that is something to keep in mind. But Children of the Vein, let's go ahead and start that tracking for seize Longza here. Right now it is just at 0 out of 3. So we'll be making some attacks for them. First off, the grav tank formation that just landed there is going to attack. And then we have a bevy of other things that accidentally got left out of this copy and paste, so let's fix that. I'll clean up the formatting in a bit, but that should be good enough for having it on record. The grav tank formation on Longza will attack first, which of course the Amelhart Institute will need to defend somehow. They have chosen to defend the attacks on Longza with the Informer's asset first. So, the grav tank formation will attack with a force versus force attack, so this will be a +6 versus a +4. So, sticking with the theme, we will roll the attackers first, rolling a d10, re-rolling ones, adding 6, giving the Children of the Vein a 16. That is unbeatable, but we will go ahead and roll the defense of countering with a 14. That is just... I've rolled so many 10s, and I feel so sad for the defense when you roll a 10 and still lose, but thus is the way of the dice. This attack then from the grav tanks is pretty big, with a d10 plus 4 on the attack. Excuse me, 2d10 plus 4. And of course, those d10s reroll ones, resulting in a 21 total maximum damage. Now, I doubt the Informer's asset has that much health, but it is in fact the case. No, the Informer's asset has 3 health. So for all that damage, 3 is what is actually applied. So 3 damage to blood the enemy. The second attack is with a pre-tech infantry asset on this world. There is still another Amelhart Institute asset around able to defend. The Saboteurs will in fact be the defense this time. The pre-tech infantry makes another force v force attack. This time it's just a 2d8 for the damage roll. So the rolls for the attacker are the same, so a d10 rerolling ones once, +6, results in a 14. Can the defenders repeat their incredulous 14? No, they can't, meaning a 2d8 of damage, rerolling ones, of course, is what occurs for... Ooh, quite a disappointing result on this 2d8. Only 5 damage, but I don't believe Saboteurs have all that much HP. Oh, that is just enough to sneak by, sticking alive with 1 HP remaining. But there is still 1 asset left to attack on the world of Longza. A strike fleet from the Children of the Vein is still present on a world, and it will make its final attempt, re-rolling the same force rolls A 2d10 rerolling one, or a d10 rerolling ones once, plus 6 only gives an 8 this time for the attackers. The defense of a 13 will succeed. Does the saboteurs have a counter damage? It does not. No damage done in defense. However, that does not clear the world. So the seas must continue next turn via an attack action. On other places in which the Amalhart Institute took advantage of the attack action against the Children of the Vein took the attack action against the Amalhart, the marketers on Tellus made an attack, but there are, of course, no Amalhart assets here. The Children of the Vein also made an attack on Moss with their pre-tech infantry. No Amalhart assets are lurking here. And the world of Heliocytus also has an attack occur, where there are no assets to be valid targets. That wraps up all of the attacks then. For the Children of the Vein. They do have one thing left to do, however. They would like to take advantage of a Tellus Council effect and heal their pre-tech industry, or pre-tech infantry, excuse me. Those two are way too easy to mess up, on Tellus by 1 HP. Taking you back up to 6. They did not complete their goal this turn, only dealing 8 out of the required 16 damage. Their Seas of Longza is required to continue next turn, as 1 HP of resistance remains on the planet. What will happen next time? We will have to find out. That wraps up the Children of the Vein's turn, and we get to move on in to our 2 NPC factions. But beforehand, let's just check in on chat. Memo, I believe that for you to clarify with the Vein, but by the rules as specified, you only had to move off the planet of Valkai. You did not have to move to another planet. So I will let you decide what fiction exists there. That could be a potential possibility where the evacuees were just vented into space, as gruesome as that outcome is. But alternatively, you could just write lore to say they were handed off to civilian transit fleets to continue their journey elsewhere into the system, into the sector at large. It'll be up to the Vein to tell us what they think happened. The White Whale does its thing, so we get to check in with it, though some things will be changing about the whale in a tiny bit worth of time. So it was undisturbed on its turn, so let's go ahead and roll a d10 for it. It rolled a 5, that is odd, so it will try to gain the stealth property on itself, but I believe it is already stealth, so it does nothing. Valkai, gain stealth. Valkai, of course, also has its checks, where it is going to need to activate its pre-tech industry for a 4 to gain 2 faction credits, taking it up to a balance of 12. Excuse me, and then we need to check its clocks. The government clock was resisted, so it does not fall. The resistance clock, though, it does. Correct? That's the right order for those? Actually, let me double check, just to make sure I'm affecting the right ones from these. Yeah, Hinder Governments does that one, so the resistance clock drops down to 3, the government clock doesn't, the doom clock ticks up to 6. That does all of Valkai's things, which means we get to wrap up the end of turn things. So we'll start off with checking up for the damage on Amalhart's quest. I have that they have either dealt or received a total of 18 damage this faction turn, which we will divide, of course, by 8 to get 2 and change. The change is dropped, which brings the Warmind protocol up to 7 out of 12. 12. We then also get to figure out which faction will receive a random asset from the possible ones that could receive an asset from the planet of Lagan. Though, well, I have not announced the White Whales things, so it is still a valid target this turn. We will get to see if that is the case in the future. That means there are 10 factions available. 6 is the choice. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The Concord of Mutual Disdain have received the asset. Congratulations to them. A new distorted lens is yours. Let's go ahead and add that with the appropriate location of Lagan, and of course the planet, the purchase sickness that accompanies it. That wraps up the Bleed Temple's awarding of an asset, and I believe wraps up all of my quest-specific things I need to check. So that believes I just mean I needs to get to what happens now that the Tahora Fayi has completed their quest. So, on the quest list, we know that the Tahora Fayi and the Agumala Syndicate were both engaged in this hunting and or protecting the white whale. The quest as a whole does not end at this exact moment. The whale continues to exist as a faction, but the thing, what it does changes. Of course, it will no longer try to flee, so it will continue to just make the checks for either fighting back or remaining undisturbed on the planet until at another time it is, until another time it occurs. That'll be the case. So we need to give Tahora Fayi their rewards. Now that they have done so, they get to pick up their tag bonus of cybernetic assemblers. Did I already put that into the sheet by chance? I have no idea. I should have. I did, yes. So they have picked up their faction tag cybernetic assemblers as previously announced. This faction can support one Anchorage Station asset without paying the upkeep cost nor having the tier or tech level requirement. Anchorage stations controlled by this faction gain the following ability: Adapt Link, free action. Choose an asset other than itself at its current location. The chosen asset gains stealth for 2 faction credits. This ability can be activated multiple times per turn, with the cost increasing by 1 faction credit each activation. So we will get to see how that plays out in the future. The other thing to note is now that the White Whale Sanctuary is present on the world of Saranin, it will be receiving a custom income of 1, so long as this is the case. So if White Whale, I will correct this to an actual formula that checks it later, but for now, I know if I just put a 1 here, that will update the rest of my values correctly, increasing the money earned by the Tahora Fayi for having established the sanctuary. Congratulations to the Tahora Fayi. The other small announcement that needs to be made then results to a change in the way that the assets that the White Whale faction controls, other than the White Whale, will now operate. Since Tahora Fayi has completed their quest, any assets that are a part of the White Whale faction, other than the whale, happen to remain on the board for now, but the White Whale faction can no longer receive any additional assets. All assets currently owned by the White Whale will move as if transported by a freighter contract, making their way towards the temple on Saranin. They are going to try to pay the creature their respects. Once the assets arrive, they will defend the White Whale if it is attacked. There are additional outlines for what will happen depending on the choices Agumala Syndicate makes with regards to their interaction in the quest. I will be keeping that information private until they have chosen, but I have already outlined what will happen to the assets for, as far as what I can see, the potential outcomes for that quest are. So it has been accounted for, but information on as to what the assets will do at this point will not be made public. But so what we do know is that the assets will start slowly making their way to Saranin, and once they get there, they will defend the White Whale, if needed. So, the other thing to tease with one of the two factions involved in this completing their quest is that Met Council might have an interesting document to review in the near future. Sometime probably after Turnlock, they can expect a document to take a look over and try to see if they can find any way that they can break the proposal. It expands upon this idea of having creatures in and megafauna represented mechanically on the map in a different way than this quest represented them, but hopefully one that people find interesting. We'll of course find out based off of the feedback from Met Council, and so long as there's not any large changes, the plan will be to announce that rule set at the end of the next faction turn. So there may be some new things to look forward to as soon as turn 34. With that though, it has been a longer stream than I thought this may be at the start, but I think I may have unintentionally drummed up extra narrative description where it wasn't originally needed, but that's alright. I think that wraps up this faction turn. Of course, there are some things to do. I'll be making sure that the spreadsheet is updated. I know there are some space hexes that need to get made so that refreshing the map or loading the map fresh at this point works correctly. Once those things are done, I'll of course post all of the related updates into the Discord, as well as any of the necessary announcements for people to be able to read and keep track of. If you do want to change your faction, you should be aware that faction swaps will process on June 26th at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, so make sure PassportBot is aware of your request to change a faction before then, or you'll be with your faction for the next turn. I have still yet to confirm a next lore stream, so I won't be announcing the time for that, but the next faction turn will be taking place on July 22nd, so I'll of course have the full spreadsheet of times available for faction reps and post it publicly as well, but the next faction turn will be July 22nd for anybody trying to work out any schedules around that. So, thanks for joining us for faction turn 32. I've been your game facilitator, Xavier Stordes, and of course, hopefully I'll see you on the Discord for any future discussion. If you catch a mistake, please feel free to reach out and let me know, but hopefully there isn't anything on the spreadsheet that is particularly egregious. I think we caught some of them during this turn. I'll leave you with some fun chill tunes for a moment as we head on out. But thank you for joining me on this afternoon. I will see you next time.